We've been having a series of, I think, terrific, but also hopefully impactful conversations. We heard earlier in the day from Andy Boyd, who recently left the intelligence community. I'm delighted, honored, and excited to have someone who is still in the intelligence community join us for a keynote. Just to refresh everyone's memory with the agenda, we're going to hear from Laura Galante, and then we will have the last panel of the day talking about ransomware payments. So without further ado, thank you, Laura, for coming out. I know it's a crazy day, and so we really appreciate you being here. The podium is yours.
Hi, good to see everyone here towards the end of the day. Megan says it's been a great conversation. So, look, I am the IC cyber executive and the director of CTIIC, the Cyber Threat Intelligence Integration Center. You'll be forgiven if you don't remember it, but Michael Daniel does. He was in the room where it was created, and some other Pound Cyber alums. We are the lead federal agency for intelligence support to significant cyber incidents, which means we've done a lot of ransomware activity over the last couple of years, to put it mildly. On behalf of the IC and OD&I, though, I really want to thank this group, IST, and the Ransomware Task Force specifically for your partnership. That sounds easy and simple, and I think we used the word partnership about 300 times in your beautiful report, the double down that you just published. But what I wanted to do for a couple minutes here is talk about what that partnership has meant to the IC and talk a little bit about what that looks like going forward. So when you see public-private partnership and when you think about it in this space, I would be hard-pressed to think of people, even looking around in this room, who have been even more generous with their time and expertise on how these attacks happen and the changing dynamics around them. And when we think about where the IC really needs partnership on ransomware, the first sort of obvious, but let me just kind of walk you through it, area is on understanding victimology. So many of these attacks, if not almost all of them, are happening outside of USG or even government areas, right? These victims are hospitals, they're schools, they're small businesses. You see them all the time, right? Understanding the dynamics of what's happening, how that's changing, what's being used to get in, what vulnerabilities are being exploited, takes a level of depth in real-time partnership, not just on filing a suspicious activity report, but on talking with the Bureau, on talking with CISA, and then making sure that that intelligence is getting into the community so that we can really draw some of the trends and bigger pictures here to understand the threat and the continued changes around it. The other side, I hit on it for a second, is on the tactical changes that we see these actors use. Everyone here is well-versed on how quickly ransomware actors change, not just from a tooling standpoint, but just tactically how they get the money, right? And that dynamism in their business operations, which is what these are something that requires a real handhold to understand where opportunities might arise, right? So being able to do that in real time, being able to find and have partners who understand thresholds around those tactical shifts is critical for the intelligence community to find ways to continue to pursue these targets. The other piece that I wanted to help kind of walk through from the intelligence community side here is around the attack surface, right? You have the opportunities for disruption, you have the opportunities to figure out what more can be done against these actors. But it sure helps when you're able to shrink the attack surface from which they're operating on. And that's where the defensive side that we all talk about frequently is so critical here, right? If we're able to have fewer companies that just leave simple doors open for 5-6 months after the CISA alert saying what needs to be patched, we will have a smaller set of victims, we'll have a smaller problem here. And one of the things that I really loved, and I was talking to Steve Kelly about it a few minutes ago when we came in, is how the strategic and public messaging point on getting through about what this threat is, who's behind it, and how to prevent it, how important the messaging piece of this is, right? I know we have Stop Ransomware, we have hashtags around this. This group lives and breathes counter ransomware, but that public messaging piece is the next huge step on how you use this threat and the inflection point around it to get this out to small and medium enterprises, right? Everybody in this room can think of small businesses, whether they're in their family or back where they live, who think ransomware and think, oh, cyber, what do I do about that, right? It's a problem that I don't have to think about, or someone else handles that, or they're not going to go after me, right? But we all know here that so many of the victims who really pay the cost at a very kind of visceral and personal level are those small businesses, the Main Street piece of this, right? And the more we're able to use public messaging collectively between the Ransomware Task Force, between your partners and the USG's partners to explain that this can be prevented and there's more that can be done, again, to shrink this attack surface, the better off we're all going to be. So I really applaud creative thinking and continued creative thinking in that area. I think back on my own time in this space, and even to go back to the days of APT1, when the security industry was really trying to capture, how do we think about who's behind a massive shift in intellectual property, right? Intellectual property theft that was just ongoing at Fortune 500s. It took putting pictures, if anyone remembers Ugly Gorilla, it took putting some of the pictures of these hackers, in that case, a military unit, out to sort of make the connection, to clarify the story, to be able to really explain what this threat is. The same thing with the Russia troll farm that everyone remembers, and so many of these other threat pictures that have been key to drive change and drive response at the defensive level. We need the same thing with ransomware, right? How do we really explain this in a way that the story can be told at a human level that motivates change in security practices? So again, I just really want to thank the IST, the Ransomware Task Force, Megan specifically, who's a great partner and always a friend on this, who I can call and even brainstorm kind of our, live thinking within the government on this too, and just the trust that you bring into the picture. So thank you all very much. Really looking forward to celebrating with you later tonight as well.